Hello and welcome to Elvenhome, and to this edition in which the Great Pour finally starts. But first of all, it's time to deal with something that's been niggling me for a while. The purpose of this short section is first of all to let you see the little Bugles Kelly wagon, coal wagon, that arrived. In fact, it arrived in time for the previous video, but I forgot to mention it. Bugleskelly.com, I think it is. I'll put a link in the description. Has been making various things in 00 gauge from the Oh Mr. Porter film, and also one or two things from Dad's Army. And he's been prevailed upon to try something in N gauge by way of wagons, and I will admit my total self-interest here, that I have no affiliation with Bugleskelly.com, but I would dearly love him to produce more of the wagons that he's got for 00 gauge in N, and it all depends on this wagon, the Bugleskelly wagon, being a success. So I urge everybody to go and buy lots of them, just so that I can get a Jack Jones the Butcher and Hodges wagon for my railway. So I declare my self-interest, but as I say, I have no affiliation with Bugleskelly.com other than that. Bugleskelly.com, you will recall that I showed you some figures of Oh Mr. Porter and Morecambe and Wise. They're from him. And also Laurel and Hardy, who are delivering the piano in the school. So I really like the sorts of things he does, but I would like more of them in N scale. Now, the other reason for showing you this is that now that I'm working really on just scenic stuff, I can also divert my attention from time to time to get rid of the things that are niggling me. And one of them is right in front of you, which is the signal box at the end of Greyhaven Station. I don't know if Metcalfe still do it, but their main signal box, which used to stand at the main junctions and was replaced by the ratio kit, came with a little signal box attached to it. But the little signal box has always annoyed me. One, it doesn't sit flat because it's too long. Two, because of the orientation of the steps, it's just nonsense. You have to walk out into the middle of the track to get round to the steps to go into the signal box. And three, it's too big. It's supposed to be a little signal box. It's massive. So I've put up with it long enough, and the time has come for it to go. And so it was done. I've replaced the signal box with a little kit from P and D Marsh. You'll know their kits. I think they're quite active on Facebook groups. And one of the things that they do are slightly more demanding kits. But one of them, which is also their tester kit, is the Watling signal box. And I'll just zoom back here so that I can just take you down. And here you can see the remnants of the kit. Now this is one of the simpler ones. I think that Steve at Ling and District Model Railway recently built, fairly recently built their Grover Mine kit. And the kits, I think, do take a bit more work than perhaps some of the simpler kits, like the Kestrel kits, which tend to be a bit more straightforward. But there was good instructions, I thought, and I mean, you can see that there's the given that it's such a titchy kit, that's the pages of instructions that you get with good photographs. If I put it in front of the camera, you might find it easier to see what I'm talking about. And this one simply showed you the various parts that you should expect to get and gave you some idea of what colours you might want to paint it. I've painted it consistent with the colour scheme overall. And the only addition or amendment that I made to the kit was that instead of using a paper that you're given for the roof tiling, I've put some of the Reditex slates that I've got instead. And what I'll do now is just go and get show you some footage now that shows you it a bit closer. But I was very impressed with it. This was the basic carcass, and these bits are all on have a sticky backing, which then attach to the various parts that go on there. And I thought it was a good little kit. And more importantly, if I bring you back up now, it's much better in terms of scale. I think that is a little signal box that controls that one point that is there. And more importantly, the door to the signal box, as you'll see, is on the platform side. So you now don't have to dice with death by walking in the 4 foot to get into the signal box. You can do it straight from the platform, which is much, much better. So that's one niggle gone. Now, I won't tell you what all the other niggles are, but you'll see over the coming months as various niggles get addressed. Well, the day of the great pour has arrived, and I've been working on doing the scenic work around the basin. The individual buildings have gone in, and I've put a little LED light in each of them. I'll take some footage in a minute because you won't be able to see most of this detail from this view. And I've put 2 yard lamps in. I'm debating whether to put a third in the back right hand corner. I'm not sure it would go there because the crane moving around might biff it. I've also cut the big wood pile. I cut that in half. I just thought they were all a bit too big, particularly if you think that the sawmill, which is next to the wood pile, you can see the size on the right hand side of the little mill, the logs that it can handle. So somebody would have to chop all those big logs in half, and it seemed much more sensible for them to arrive in that size. The little group of figures from Oh Mr. Porter, which I mentioned in the earlier section, are now clustered around a new lamp that's gone in by the signal box, and they look quite nice. They're hanging around under the lamppost when it's a bit darker. So the canal has now been fully hoovered and brushed, so I don't have any dust left in there. I'm not going to film me actually putting the PVA in. There are plenty of videos out there showing people painting PVA, and it really is nothing more than that. You put the PVA in. Using a brush, I will make sure everything is covered. Also do it as gently as possible. You don't really want many bubbles in the PVA, and if you can see them, try and get rid of them. That's easier said than done, actually. You'd think you could just be able to pop them, but they don't. Bubbles in PVA don't easily pop. And then you go away, probably I would think for 2 days. A day and it will be dry, but you want it to be completely dry all the way through. And we'll see what it looks like. I have done experiments, as you know from previous videos. I suspect this will be 2, probably 3 layers. And at some point, once I see how deep the first layer is, I can judge how much more I need to put on. And at some point, either between the first and second, or second and third layer, I will go over and paint some parts with a greeny wash, because from the experiment I did before with PVA, that came out really rather well. I did have a go with some Vallejo still water on the recommendation of Gary at Settle and Carlisle. And well, it wasn't a success. I'll show you this picture. It cracked, it shrank and it cracked. Now, I'm sure there are things I could do to stop that happening, but I had 2 worries. One, I wasn't about, given the amount I've got to cover here, to run the risk of that happening on here. And 2, all the videos I looked at about how to use this Vallejo still water are all talking about small dioramas where it works very well, and actually it is a really good product, and I can see why Gary uses it. I think when you're doing this kind of size, and remember that's the basin and all the way along the canal and then into the lock itself, then you've really, I want to go with something that I know has already worked over a large space from an experiment that I've done. So you probably won't see this again for a couple of days. Well, it'll be a couple of days, a mere matter of moments in the course of this video. I hope by the time the video goes up that I may have got the second coat on. I'm filming on the Tuesday, so it's possible I won't have done. All depends how quickly this dries, but I certainly wouldn't be looking to put the second coat on before Thursday morning. So I doubt that will be done in time for you to see that. And it'll be interesting actually whether it's dry in time. You may see a very white looking canal basin when I decide what it is I'm going to run for the running session, but we'll wait and see. Okay, I'm going to get on and do this, and hopefully you'll get to see a bit of it before we get to the end of the video. Okay, this is just a quick clip. This is 24 hours after I did the initial pour. You can see that's still to dry. That was quite deep there, so I'm not entirely surprised. This, I don't know if you can get the shine off this, has dried. Interestingly, a lot more has come through than I expected. It's not quite so dry over here, you can see. And as I said, I would leave this for 48 hours because I think you can see more of a shine coming off it here. Because if I put more on now, well, firstly, it's not quite dry over there. But if I put more on now, the danger might be that I'd actually put some brush strokes into what's down here because it's not yet completely cured. But so far, so good. I think what this is also showing me is that it will be at least 3 coatings, maybe even 4. The next coating that goes on will dull down the painting that was done underneath, and then on top of that I will put some a mix, probably using the green moss weathering powders to create the mix, or wash, to give me a bit of greeny looking, and then we'll see what it looks like after 3. But the second coat won't go on until tomorrow. it's now Thursday afternoon and I have put on the second coat and painted that on. It's very therapeutic painting in PVA. There's some nice resistance to it and you really feel as though you're moving it around. So this will be left now till Saturday morning, and then I'll take a look at how things are going Saturday morning, and I'm almost certain there will be at least one more coat, possibly two, but I'll take a view once I can see what it looks like once that's dried. And that, I think, is that as far as I can do on the layout. I'll leave it alone because I've already stuck my hand in the wet glue once without thinking. So I'll leave it there. The eagle-eyed among you may have noticed that there's a change in the locomotives, or at least one of them. The one going by you now is pulling the rake that Springbok, which is on the other rake, was pulling, and that's a peppercorn A1 Great Eastern, and Springbok has moved on to the Gresley set. When I was doing the running session, I kept hearing a knock as Springbok entered the tunnel because it was going the other way around, and I didn't think anything of it, but it was annoying me and I couldn't work out what it was knocking against. And it turns out that Springbok has wider cylinders than almost any other locomotive I've got. And would you believe, of course, I didn't test the layout with Springbok, and it was just clipping the tunnel entrance as it was going in. So the direction that the peppercorn A1 is now going. So I had to shave 2 millimeters, that was all, and everything is running sweetly. It's so annoying because I put the 8F and the 9F on and put them through, and they didn't have any problems at all going through that tunnel. So there's a bit of a repair for me to do once all the glue is dried and I'm not trying to work over there whilst and stick my hand in the glue again. It'll be interesting actually, once the thing is dried, I won't be able to lean on that PVA because I think you will leave an impression. So I'm going to have to learn to control myself and not bestrew what I thought was an open area with tools and things. But that really brings this edition to Elvenhome to a close. If you've liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. That's really very helpful for getting it seen on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed, well, it's free, and please do, because although I'm getting close to finishing this bit, there's other pieces of work that I now can go back and do in terms of detailing, and there are parts that really aren't complete. The High Elven High Street isn't complete in the far corner. Part of the depot hasn't been done yet and needs a lot more work. And as I've said earlier, there are niggles that need putting right, which I should be working on fairly shortly. So until I speak to you again, probably in about 2 weeks' time. Oh yes, if you have any comments, please do leave comments. I always enjoy getting comments and responding to them. But as I said, I'll see you again in a couple of weeks' time. And until I do, that's bye-bye from me. Bye-bye.